This is Dr. Charles Parker, and you're listening to Core Brain Journal. It's a place where I connect both fresh discoveries and interesting different perspectives from advanced mind science with the realities of real people and everyday life down on Main Street. Well, welcome aboard, folks. Dr. Charles Parker, and one more doggone interesting interview that's going to happen here. We have a guy, Jim Bono, who's going to join us in just a minute, who is really interesting about brain injury for patients from a much more comprehensive, community-based, how do we work together to really address this problem as opposed to putting everybody off in little pieces. Jim, thanks. We're looking forward to talking to you. Thanks for coming on board.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just tell you about the two sponsors that we have, and then we'll go on with the interview. You folks already know how much we love the reality of data here at CBJ, and today we welcome our clinical friend and new sponsor partner directly related to hard data, Direct Health Access Laboratory. With over 3 million studies, they're deep leaders of experience with the big picture of measuring, for example, methylation, cryptopyrrole, and copper challenges. They have a global service with a molecular focus. Stay tuned. We'll talk about them mid-cycle. These guys are great. We just love working with them. They do a great job for the people we work with. And then the James Berry Robinson Center. They're another group that has come in and supported CBJ. And what they have, and what we're really interested in supporting, is improvements in mind care from a structured therapeutic level. Today, we'll welcome James Berry Robinson Center. They're a sponsor and partner with a deep interest in fresh options to address the complexity of adolescent treatment failure nationally and internationally. And they are built, get this, TRICARE friendly. That's where the international piece comes from. They are connected globally with a lot of very interesting families. We really like them. The Berry Robinson Center provides a holistic environment that sets children, teens, and families on the path to healing. From our personal experience right here in Tidewater, Virginia, we know how they work with our families that we sent to them, a truly different residential experience. More in a moment. We'll tell you more about them midline. So let me go ahead and introduce Jim Bono. He is a person who has had a number of experience on the receiving end of what goes on when you have an injury. And he's a survivor of brain injury. And as a survivor, you learn many things, he says. Some you simply don't understand at the outset. Then there are those that simply don't make any sense at all. And you realize that's not my head. We just don't get it. So there are models of recovery that are in fact broken. So what he's put together and worked together, I don't know if he's put it together, but we'll hear more about it in a second, is BIRG, an acronym that talks about the Brain Injury Resource Group. And he says we are the only formed, founded, and staffed 501c3 focused on global community around acquired brain injury. We're going to talk about acquired brain injury in just a second, because that's a different kettle of fish than we've been talking about here at CBJ. It's a whole broader concept. Simply said, survivor to survivor, caregiver to caregiver, medical community to medical community, legal field to legal field, social services and so on, from Australia to Venezuela and all ports between. What's going to happen is Jim's going to tell us how that whole package comes together. Again, Jim, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this. I mean, where you started with this interest and where you are now.
I got a great answer for you. I started by hitting my head on a Tennessee field.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, I think the new statistics that are rumored here in the U.S. is 2.5 million annually. So my case is not that special. And I don't say that out of, because everybody's like, tell me about you, Jim. Tell me about you. And I'm not the guy that, sits there and says, oh, this, that, and the other. My story is about the same as 85% of the people out there. The problem is that you bump your head, you get a sudden jolt, look, I'm an urban kid. I grew up in South Minneapolis. That meant I'm invincible.
Mm-hmm.
That meant, oh, I bumped my head. Oh, I blacked out. Oh, well. Oh, hey, I'm awake now. It's 10 seconds later. Let me go back to playing soccer. Let me go back to playing football. Um, do what kids do. I'm indestructible. I don't think about age 50. Unfortunately, Black Ice and about 2 years after retirement had a different plan for me when the back tire of my motorcycle kicked out and went straight into a Southeast Tennessee rain ditch on the side of a road.
Mm.
And I believe the mind says, or the Lord says, you don't want to see this, and kind of closes your eyes down. And fractured, excuse me, on the microphone.
That's no
Fractured the
problem.
left collarbone, blacked out, went head over heels for about 25 yards, landed on my head, square right on the top of the head, with a helmet on, yes. And body then dropped and slid for about 15 yards. And the saving grace was a wonderful little feature on a Harley on a radio called Repeat. Because when you're 15 minutes outside of any small town in Southeast Tennessee at about 11:45 or midnight, you have a radio, and it's kind of loud, and there's really nobody around. So you're just enjoying the beautiful ride,
Mm-hmm.
and you're enjoying a song that happens to be tied into a friend of mine that passed away a number of years ago. So I was just enjoying the moment, kind of deal, and playing the song over and over, and that song played for a half an hour until a local came up, and literally what I first felt was him kicking me in the leg, and I would say pretty good kick, kind of like Charlie Brown kicking a football kind of deal.
He thought you were dead.
He did. He did. I mean, I'm guessing he talked for a while and didn't get any response, and so he gave me a good boot to make sure before doing anything, and it was from there just kind of a.
So it was the replay on the Harley that brought him in. Otherwise, you'd be sitting out there.
To be no disrespect to the individual, because I certainly did go back and thank him, but in all fairness, first question was, "What are you doing?" With the Tennessee accent, and the second, my answer was, "I'm not. Did I crash?"
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, what? And he just kind of looked at me. I go, "Yeah, I think I crashed." Then he goes, "You woke up my baby." And I'm like, I crashed. I'm still processing this.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, he was not happy.
Really?
This radio, let's be honest, guys. A lot of people don't understand why Harleys have such loud exhaust and why their radios often are so loud. It is because it's much easier to be heard than it is seen with so many distracted drivers. And so that's why there's those stickers that say "Loud Pipes Save Lives." It's not because we want to be irritating or loud. It's because we want to survive. We want to live. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really tough. So then did they came out and picked you up and took you to the hospital?
That is correct.
And then how long were you in the hospital? You obviously had a concussion. You had an injury.
I did. And, you got to love, I probably shouldn't name the hospital, but their rating I last looked was 1.8 out of 5 in Sevierville, Tennessee. And they said, "Oh, you've got a fractured collarbone." And it was about 2 to 3 hours. And here's some Percocet, Oxy, I'm not sure what it was, some medication, and have a good day. You're going to be sore for a few days. And apparently I slept for about 3 days. I told my wife that, I don't, I'm not no disrespect to any medical doctors. I wouldn't be here without them. So I have great respect for all they do, and including yourself, Chuck. But I believe there's certain pain medications that are very addictive. And I would much rather try Tylenol or Advil or ibuprofen first and take the risk on my kidney kind of deal before trying something stronger. So I woke up about 3 days later, noticed the pill bottle was open next to me. my wife had been taking care of me, and they got dumped down in the garbage at that moment, and went to Tylenol.
Now
And
tell me this: are you saying that, Jim, you were actually taking them and you didn't know you were taking them, or something like that?
I was out of it. I believe the kindness of my wife at the time was he's hurting, he's in pain. I could have just been saying, oh, I'm hurting.
Mm-hmm.
I was sleeping about 17 hours a day, I would say, maybe 18. And, I'm sure I had to get up at some point to go to the bathroom. I don't recall any of that for 3 days. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if I was saying, okay, yes, I'll take those. But once, I realized what they were, I'm like, flush, as I just wasn't for me.
So how did the doctors get you back? So you're obviously doing a good job of talking. You're articulate. You're on the game. So then what happened? How did you get yourself back on? You may not be on the motorcycle. I don't know if you're riding again. But the issue is, how did you get yourself back on the road?
I'll make it very easy for you. You ready? I left Tennessee.
Well,
I should rephrase that. She left me. She got the house and the money and everything else. But I came back to Minneapolis, Minnesota, as there's a number of Trauma One hospitals, as well as this is where Mayo Clinic is originally out of.
Yep.
And I was tripping upstairs. I was not doing too well. There was an immense amount of stuff. And there's a Courage Center that's here as well. And so there's a lot of options as far as a demographic, as far as a marketplace. If you're to have an acquired brain injury, it's a good place to have it. This is where I grew up. You suddenly served with divorce papers. You're in a town where, you just retired a couple years earlier, and, you are...
you're a stranger.
So you're kind of like, I have people from church, but I think I'd like to see some family and friends. I kind of need them right at this moment. And
Ouch.
So, ended up coming back to Minnesota and got into a TBI program at Hennepin County Medical Center, which I'm, very, very blessed to have gotten into. There was a number of misdiagnoses, and yes, he does, no, he doesn't, and let's send him to a National Dizzy Balance Center, which full props, great place, because they said, no, this guy has a traumatic brain injury. And they called Hennepin County Medical Center and said, we'd like you to set up an interview with this guy and talk. And did the neuropsych exam, and it came back, you got deficits in this area, this area, this area, this area. And not to, I hate saying this, and I haven't figured out a way to say it without sounding egotistical, but I grew up very modest means in South Minneapolis, and I worked very hard, got lucky in the IT industry. I wish I could say it was all brains, but that's not the case. And ended up deciding that, now's a good time to hang it up, because I would like to enjoy retirement. I have enough money to, survive for the next whatever amount of years. And that was it. So basically took a step back and said, if I need to get a job in 10 years, I'll go to Home Depot, kind of thing. And,
and now you're going to make a difference, and that's what you're doing right now.
Exactly. Life does have a change of plans. So, in fact, I'd like to talk about that. Forget about me. Let's talk about Berg for a moment, if you don't mind.
No, that's exactly where we're going. I mean, awesome. Because I thought if we started with you a little bit, we'd get right there, and that's where we need to go. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. So here's the problem with the world. Acquired brain injury. Most people are not familiar with that term. Half the people out there are not able to identify the letters TBI. They don't understand it means traumatic brain injury. Even less understand ABI. Fact of the matter is that a traumatic brain injury is an acquired brain injury. A stroke is an acquired brain injury. There's a number of acquired brain injuries. Now, the problem we have, and I'm focusing in at this moment in this conversation, this example, on the U.S. And I may ruffle a few feathers. Yeah, it's very simple. James.bono@bellberg.org. Send your hate mail there. Because the fact of the matter is that I am that guy that, wife was gone. Friends like, hey, get your butt into a program. You need help. And go do it. And I dropped about 97% of the people I know. And, I'm not wearing these glasses because I'm Joe Cool. I live every day with photophobia, and it's reality. So
the sunglasses help you because your eyes would be strained following the injury.
These are prescription.
Yeah. Oh, they're prescription.
Yes,
yeah.
They are prescription. And so yes, the eyes do get strained looking at computer screens, etc. But the brightness, and today's semi-cloudy, and so I'm enjoying a little bit of sunshine, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that you go through, you walk down the halls, and you're doing about sometimes 4 hours a day with scattered meetings, over maybe a 5 or 6 hour window, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you begin seeing other people wearing sunglasses, and you begin seeing and recognizing, you're like, hey, how you doing? And this kind of thing. I mean, absolutely no disrespect to any of our fine military or soldiers. There's a kinship that takes place with veterans. I'm sure you may have been out, and you may have a family member that's bumped into another gentleman or gal and said, hey, you served? Yeah, Kandahar. Oh, Baghdad. And suddenly there's a bond. It's the same thing with survivors on the traumatic brain injury arena. I can't speak for the stroke area. I haven't had a stroke yet, fortunately. So there's a very strong bond. And the problem is that a lot of them are sitting by themselves. And so one day I started looking at this, and let me Google the divorce rate, and 80-some%, a high 80-some% of marriages after a traumatic brain injury end in divorce. And mine only took 4 months after 14 years. So apparently, that whole sickness and health meant anything above the flu is out. But the fact of the matter is that it kind of was like, wow, that's really strong. And then talking to some other people and support groups, and happened to have been out on a walk one day and met a gal who actually got in a motorcycle accident up here at about the same time. And I'm like, let me ask you a question. Have you, what do you do on this? I don't know. I just kind of always got nowhere. You got anything? I'm like, I Googled it and there's nothing. And she's like, well, what about this? I'm like, got nothing. And so we spent the rest of the walk, which is a fundraiser for a national organization. And, thank you for their awareness and efforts. And we decided, let's get together later this week and let's talk. And that's how Berg came about, was 2 survivors and then 3 survivors, and pretty soon half a dozen survivors talking about this is lacking, this is lacking, this is lacking, this is lacking. So we identified the problems, and then we said, okay, well, what would be the appropriate solution? Well, everybody that's any successful businessman knows, identify a problem, develop a solution, and the business will naturally come. This business is a nonprofit business. People, it's a nonprofit organization, just like any other for-profit organization, just we're not in it for money. As a matter of fact, our bylaws, if there's anybody out there that's in the nonprofit arena thinking, hey, I'd love to go over there and join, you're not going to like the financial caps we put in our bylaws. Because this is a passion project. This is about making a difference. 6 of us said, okay, what are we missing? Let's go talk to caregivers. And there's caregivers out there that, unfortunately, early days of traumatic brain injury involves a short fuse. You're not the politest person. You're downright mean sometimes, and you really don't realize it in your own head. And so what happened is was talking to Andy and was speaking with his mother, Sue. And she told me a story about that same organization that I did a walk for and met the gal from the motorcycle, Chrissy. And she's like, there's no support groups. I'm like, what? What do you mean there's no support groups? And support groups are huge on the survivor side. There's nothing. Her and Andy had a particular day. He went up to bed and took a nap, and she pretty much was like, oh, the phone rings and there's that national organization, and hey, great, well, yeah, we've got answers for you. I'll send you out something. You'll get in the mail in a couple of days. And great, mail came. She opens it up, and Alzheimer's group. What does that have to do with traumatic brain injury?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we ended up.
So how does your group actually work then? Take it down to the street when somebody, because you would like the people who have injuries to be connected with you, I would imagine. And how does that take place? How does one do that? Can they do it virtually? How do they do it when they're in Tasmania? Well, how does all that work?
Here's the deal. We, with less than 20 people, are connected in about 12 different countries. And we have an ugly website. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, no disrespect to Mark. Thank you for all your efforts. Thank you, Lane. Thank you, Kelly. But the problem is that we are survivors. We are caregivers. We're not website design people. So what we believe and know for a fact is the current models that are out there are all brick and mortar, state by state, country by country. And the problem with that is that's the same business model that you and I see every day in this country, every week in this country, because we see Burger King open across the street from McDonald's. That's a for-profit business model. So we decided, let's just go online. We don't need a brick and mortar, and let's use a board here in Minnesota, and ultimately let's develop a board that's international. So we decided to start growing outside of the U.S. because of competitiveness. 85% of people in nonprofits, statistically, are in it for profit. Well, that's good for them, but that's we're in that 15% area. So what we did, is we went out and went on LinkedIn and didn't do anything except put a logo out there and put a title on there and talked just basically an invite saying, hey, if anybody would like to talk, we'd love to talk. And pretty soon people started going, hey, I'm curious, tell me about this brain injury resource group. And we explained what our objective is and what our goal is to connect survivor to survivor, connect caregiver to caregiver, medical, legal field, social service. Social services in Canada they're lacking immensely, but yet here in America, they're pretty darn good. Why would we not want the two to talk? Forget about a border. Forget about a state border. Connect the people, let them talk in the best way, the cheapest way, the easiest way is right here online. And so we decided, okay, let's go out and fortunately, my long-term business skills are still there. And we approached some companies and spoke about, hey, here's what our goal is and here's what our objective is. And we'd like to talk to you about, this, that, and the other. And we have a board of director and a website team and a social media company that said we'll donate our services. And everything's just kind of out there on hold, waiting for a consistent message, a correct message, and the correct look and the feel. I'm not a social media guy. I avoided it. But we invite people to either connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with Lane Wright on LinkedIn, WRIGHT. Go to www.theberg.org and simply, there's a button, take action. That's all it is, because we're just saying, let's help one another. Because the logic is, it was about a little over 5 years ago, and there were so many questions, and I was very angry. I'm a very faith-based person, and I will be completely honest that I prayed for 2 years. Lord, please, just let me get in. And, growing up Catholic, it's pretty much ingrained in your head how that works. And so the fact of the matter is I would have loved it if, me sitting there at 44, 45 years old, if there would have been a 47-year-old guy, 48-year-old guy, or a gal that said, hey, I know where you're at. I can relate. Let me talk with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't happen. We don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've seen the model. It's called Big Brother, Big Sister. It works. Why do we not have an acquired brain injury?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that it's so challenging for us to say support groups? Yeah, they're brick and mortar. They're at a church or they're at a, various places around the city. But what about the person out in rural Kentucky?
Mm-hmm.
What do they? What about the person that just left their support group and 2 days later their caregiver dies, which actually is a true story, and they've got to wait 28 more days?
How do they actually connect with you in that, Jim? Then if they get to the site, do you have groups at the site? Do you have like a meeting board? Do you have are the groups consistently with the same people, or how does all that process work?
Very good question. Awesome question. Thank you. So the site that is out there is a temporary site, which is pretty much saying, come, join, take action. Because the fact of the matter is that as a survivor, we learn more from each other about the tricks and the tips and this, that, and the other. I fully appreciate Dr. Kent and Nova and all of them to teach me balance and teach me talk again and teach me everything correctly. But the day-to-day life, you don't get a pamphlet on the way out. You get a pat on the back. And often that's dictated by insurance. Fact of the matter is that the actual website is still in development. Our current website is purely a recruiting tool saying, you want to get involved? We have a huge need for volunteers, and we would love to get them in and connect everybody. So the chat rooms are a kind of go back to the old school, like AOL 1.0 kind of days.
Yeah.
And you have a survivor chat room right here. And over here, you've got a caregiver chat room. So simply log in and you're committed to a survivor or a chat room. You don't get to cross over.
Oh, I got you.
Then also go ahead and fill out some more questions and click, yep, agree. Now I'll give them a cell number. This is called accountability. I mean, the fact is you are going to get a text and you are going to need to enter that PIN, and you are going to go ahead and, need to simply said, enter it, or you don't really go any farther.
Actually connect. As opposed to, you're not going to just dream about it. You're going to get in and be there and be a person with the people.
That's the problem with Facebook. You have too many people in there selling, no disrespect to anybody who sells essential oils or the next thing, but we don't want salespeople.
Yeah.
We want to talk to somebody, and we want to talk real. And the fact of the matter is that your final page is code of conduct. You're not going to sell. You're not going to disrespect. You're not going to be mean, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're thinking, yeah, I'd like to end this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm praying that somebody says, let me just grab my phone and let me log in real quick. And the fact of the matter is that it's a 24/7 operation, because we have Sass Freeman over in UK, who is a wonderful author, wonderful gal, suffered a couple of strokes, and she's just a sweetheart of a gal. And you've got the last neuroscientist, the very last one in all of Venezuela. His name is Luis Jimenez. And I'm like, well, it's a war-torn country, I get it. And he's got a website, Neuro Society, but in his language, which he just wants to talk to other doctors. I would love to see other doctors talk to other doctors. And I would love to see them connect and advance what it is that's working, so that that doctor in rural Kentucky, nothing against Kentucky, you're just in this example, can turn around and learn. Can turn around and say, you know what, I saw that thing on Chuck's show on CBJ. Let me go back and search the archives, if he happens to recall it. Get engaged if he says, hey, I remember, I'm going to bookmark Berg, and log on in. And there's doctors from Canada, there's doctors from the US, there's doctors from Venezuela, doctors from Australia, doctors from all over Europe. The fact of the matter is, it's not a hard concept. Nobody's in there making money. Nobody's in there doing anything other than connecting. And the benefit at the end of the day is for the newbie survivor and the newbie caregiver. the benefit is because if a social service person up in Canada happens to get, hey, I got some great tidbits, and here's how they did this, or here's what they do. Let's figure out how they did it. Great, improve the services. If a doctor's like, what, I think this would be a good idea, but I'm going to bounce it off some people. Go in there, bounce it off some people. However you want to do it. I just want people to connect, because that word connect in our world, my world, in the acquired brain injury world, 4 letters. Hope. Without hope, it is very, very dark. And it's been about 2+ years now that Berg has been quietly in the works.
You're cooking.
We started doing this outside of the U.S. intentionally because of competitiveness. We are getting together. We are growing a lot faster than I can handle, that's for certain. So please, anybody would like to get involved, would love to have you. There is a process where we, believe in the theory, right seat, right person, because nobody wants to be in an uncomfortable spot. And so, especially when it comes to volunteer work.
Well,
so
that is great. I was looking forward to you throwing that appeal out there to people to join. And I want to take just a moment for our sponsors here in the middle of this thing. And I'm going to come back. When we come back, I'm going to ask you, Jim, about even more specifics about what a person might find. And I think one of the key groups that I think is important, and I want to ask you about it, is the doctors and the health professionals. Because I think what happens is a big, if the public isn't communicating effectively with the health professionals, I mean, the public needs to come, the public needs the public. There's no question about it. But the health professionals who are going to provide opportunities, they got to be there and they got to know what's going on. So I'm going to ask you about that in just a minute. So
sounds great.
We'll take a break and I look forward to talking to you then. Well, folks, you know as well as I do that psychiatric treatment failure, especially after multiple medication trials and those very, very brief hospitalizations, may prove insufficient to deal at home with the complexity of troubled children and those adolescents from 6 to 17 years old. Improved care, those next mandatory steps, should include a more comprehensive approach to address those multiple levels of challenges, from family to peers to school, diagnostically from defiance to depression, on every level for families, including military families internationally. The Barry Robinson Center's 32-acre open college-like campus in Norfolk, Virginia, provides safety and security and clean, comfortable living. How do we know? We refer folks over there all the time, strongly endorse what they're doing. So for further information, an informed interview, connect at this page, barryrobinson.org/core. Well, you folks already know that here at Core Brain Journal, we're on a mission to introduce you to resources that make significant contributions to the investigation of those predictable mind science applications. Our colleagues at DHA Lab Group provide a real difference with treatment options for people at every level, from first awareness of mind problems to those frustrating times when even well-informed treatment becomes surprisingly unpredictable. For my entire professional life, from psychoanalysis to brain scans, I've searched for, yes, improved predictability. The good news for all of us, from professionals to patients, remarkably effective research offers useful, cost-effective, organic options far beyond guesswork with psychiatric medications alone. DHA lab tests measure unbalanced biomedical details through easily available testing, now available globally for a variety of molecular answers from, for example, methylation, copper, and cryptopyrrole challenges. Check in for more details at dhalab.com core. That's dhalab.com/core. Well, welcome back, Jimbo. Nice to talk to you again. We're back, and we're going to find out about the health professionals and how they can relate. I'm going to just tell you one thing that I didn't quite bring up, and it's a little, since we've had a moment for everybody to take a breath. I was a guy who had a motorcycle myself back in medical school, and my cousin and I, he had a Yamaha, and I had a Norton Atlas 750.
Nice.
And it was a monster bike. I mean, it was one of those things, and he had serious pipes and all that stuff on it. And And I always wanted to ride a bike. I had some very interesting trips with it. But three times it had a real strange rear wheel. You had a rear wheel problem. I had a rear wheel problem. My rear wheel on that bike was an antique rear wheel. It was not a rounded rear wheel. It was back when they had the old square rear wheel. So when you go around on a corner, that butt would slide out a little bit, no matter what you were on. And if you were on anything that was a little gravelish,
a little bit, you better believe
your heart went right up into your head. So that happened 3 times to me, and I said, "Hey, life is too short. I'm just not going to go out in the ditch on this guy." I mean, I just had to do something else. But it was a nice tour. Nice tour.
Absolutely true. But the sad thing is that Tennessee, you get a rainstorm out of the blue, just out of nowhere, and so there's a variety of bikes that are actually running car tires on the back.
Yeah.
Same deal that you're talking about.
That's it.
I mean, they do great in the rain, but no offense, a little bit of gravel that comes off of any of those roads.
Yeah.
You're done.
You're on the edge. Yep. You're not on the tire. You're on the edge.
Yep. And you better be able to handle that thing. So you asked me a question.
Yes, sir. And I'll repeat it if you don't mind. We want to see how the medical people, and not just medical people, nurse practitioners, therapists, counselors, how do they interact with you in such a way to get into this situation?
First thing is www.thebirg, that's BIRG, thebirg.org. Right hand side, you'll see a button that says Take Action. Come on down, and there is an ugly form. It's very basic, very simple. Like I said, we're not website people. Simply submit. And if they would like to get involved, or we're not out here pitching to make donations type deal. The Real Deal site, when it's up, as far as vision wise, is again, there's chat rooms, and there's going to be survivor, caregiver, legal community, medical profession, and try to generalize so that you can take a therapist and connect it with we'll talk about a occupational therapist, connect them with a speech therapist, connect them with a PT, and frankly, share, talk. This is the problem, is that we call it recovery without walls. And the reality of the matter is that in that healthcare community, it's the same problem that we're seeing in the legal and everywhere else, that there isn't that communication. Now, there's ample, I got to be honest with you, Chuck, I'm amazed at how many different, and I'm sure your audience out there is going to say the same. This is the wonderful brain. Symposiums, different events where you can, hey, let's go out to Vegas, or let's go out to Chicago, or let's go out to New York, and spend $12K to attend a 2-day conference, or whatever the case may be. Well, that's fine. You get the same people, and you go out and have the same drinks, and you have the same fun time, and learn some new things from some cool keynote speakers. What do you do on the every average day?
How do you take it home?
Bingo. And that's the problem, is that go on a website that's free. It doesn't cost you $1,200. It may cost you about, 60 seconds to type. I'm not sure how quick of a typer you are. And get in there, log in, and you're going to go through the same thing we talked about, because we do not want anybody in there misrepresenting themselves or selling some, hey, this is the heal cure all. This is the best thing since sliced bread. What we would like is for individuals to get in there and truly talk and know that they're in an environment that I'm not able to get into, that caregiver's not getting into, nobody's able to get into. It is strictly their field, meaning medical field. And so we will define medical field as, this array of individuals. And, social services or whatnot is this array of individuals. And caregivers is this array of individuals. So that the individuals can find the right field they're in, because once you're in a group, it's going to be a little challenging to transfer over to the other. But the fact of the matter is we want the doctors and when I say the doctors, I'm referring to all of them that have an interest. Um, I'm up in Minnesota, and we commonly refer to it as Minnesota. And there's a town called Litchfield, and it's about 2 hours west of the cities. And there's a mother that drives her 28-year-old grown daughter who has a child to downtown Minneapolis, 2 hours, and drives back 2 hours. And it just seems to make more sense to get a doctor out in Litchfield. Seems like,
who gets it?
Quite honestly, I'm quite certain that if there was somebody knowledgeable out there, it'd be pretty helpful at the very least, even if it was in a smaller private practice type deal. I don't know the details of these things, but I would imagine that there's going to be some doctors that are specializing in. We've seen that neurofeedback, biofeedback, neurorehabilitative, plasticity. A lot of hype on that in the last 12 months' time. I can't honestly tell you right now whether that's a great thing or not, but I do trust that the doctors are going to tell me whether it's a great thing or not, because, well, you kind of want to trust your doctors. It's kind of like going to, I don't know, how do you say it? If you don't trust your doctor, you're going to the wrong doctor.
Well, you want to get the people informed. I mean, the big reason you're doing this is because you want to share information and be contemporary.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things going on out there, and this is the same reason we're doing Core Brain Journal. The reason I'm talking to you right now is because we want to get from every side any information we can get that's going to help the man on the street out in Oshkosh, in Possum Hollow, Alabama, to really get into, have an opportunity to talk to people and be there online, on time, being in some forum. Now, we have Core Brain Journal, just as a quick plug, and this is not, just to say, we're going to have you on our vet site. We're going to have this recording on our veterans site because we know the veterans need resources. We've got probably 20, 30 veteran interviews that we've had on people that do brain injury, neuroplasticity, how you think. We've got people that train warriors before they go into war, how they deal with brain injury after. And we're really interested. That's why the reason we were so excited about talking to you, because we're on the same path. We're into, let's make it happen. There's no charge. Just show up and learn something and get something out of it.
Yep, just do. It isn't rocket scientist. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, and no, I'm not, again, full disclaimers, well, not full disclaimers, I'm not going to apologize for it, but there's a term I grew up with and I believe very dearly to this day: love thy neighbor. And in our society here in the U.S., it doesn't happen. Not enough. And the fact of the matter is that you've got soldiers that are coming back, getting misdiagnosed with PTSD and TBI. They're very similar. And, how to correct it and how to, get these things done right. Please excuse the language, but damn it. Let's just knock this off and get people connected so that we can expedite the facts of here's how we're healing this. Here's how we're addressing this. I mean, it really isn't rocket science to get people to talk to one another. The problem is that too many people are out there in the world that, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and this comes down. Fine, I'll give you a million disclaimers because trust me, the website's going to have a ton of disclaimers simply because 5 years ago, I would, quite honestly, was not a pretty picture. The house I'm sitting in is a blessing. It's shelter. To me, it's Trump Towers and then some. No offense against the...
No.
But my point being is that you and I have that same logic of do. Because there's plenty of people that want to gripe about the world. They want to talk about how horrible it is. Then shut up and just get up and do. And it's not rocket science to do. I mean, you've got plenty of doctors that are out there listening to your deal, and you have plenty of veterans that are out there. And I want to make this plug. Berg is... There's a personal connection on why the veterans tie in with me. Back in 2006, long before I bumped my head, I brought Minnesota Patriot Guard about in Minnesota and helped change the model for the U.S. Unfortunately, I never served, some screws in my ankle, so they wouldn't take me. And later screws in the head. But what ends up happening is nothing but the utmost respect for these individuals. And I believe it's a market that's getting underserved. And I believe they're doing the best they can as far as the doctors, but there's so much red tape. It's our government. Yeah. Whether it's a Democratic government, a Republican government, the Dairy Queen government, there's just too much red tape, and these guys need help now.
Well, and the resources are out there. People don't know about them. I mean, the medical community is not able to keep up with all the things that are going on in neuroscience. It's the reason we're doing Core Brain Journal, because, I mean, there's so many really cool things going on. I mean, you could just sit and listen to these guys that I'm talking to all day. It's not about me. It's about the people who are making a difference in their lives by moving that needle forward for the good of humankind, basically.
Absolutely.
Now, tell me about something you skipped over a little bit, because I want you to take some full credit if credit was due right there. What did you develop? How did you say that? You're a very humble guy, but I think right there you said something that our listeners would want to. You developed something, and you weren't actually a veteran. What was that?
Back in 2006, we had and I will fully say this one, and Libby Phelps, if you want to sue me, I'm over in St. Paul now. We had an individual that was in this country from Westboro Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. And this individual was Reverend Fred Phelps, a disbarred attorney out of Topeka, Kansas, I believe it was. And he decided that it would be a good idea to go out and protest at funerals. And later he decided that that he should protest, and his followers, which was a small band, would go out and protest at military soldiers.
I remember that being in the news, yeah.
So what took place was we had that was actually started by American Legion Riders. And a couple individuals down in the Kansas area had took it and said, hey, that's a great idea. Let me go out and incorporate this. And, they cut a little side deal, and, hey, we got money coming in. And, hey, yeah, all the money goes to the to the cause. Well, anybody who's grown up inside any urban area or happened to have been raised in an Italian-Irish family, youngest of 10 kids, any one of those three categories, of which I'm all three, will know for a fact that you see a wrong, you will be the first to raise your hand and go, we're going to straighten this out right now. And so unfortunately, we have a wonderful organization, Dennis Kirk, which is the largest aftermarket ATVs, motorcycles, etc. Happens to be based here in Minnesota, and called up a friend and said, hey, Bob, can you make a donation, please, and track it? Let let your people know to let you know. And I would send an email once a week. Any money from Minnesota yet? I'm like, I just want to get an insurance policy. I just, really don't want to risk my home, and got a lot of costs coming out of my own pocket type deal. And we got back the check, copy of the check actually. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, let me send an email. Any money for Minnesota yet? And I'm reading the memo for Minnesota. Nope, nothing yet. So decided.
I don't quite get that story right there. So take a moment. If I'm not getting it, other people aren't. Did you get a check from this guy?
I had an organization. There happens to be a guy's named Dennis Kirk. Is a aftermarket accessories, the world's largest aftermarket accessories for motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles.
Okay.
Make a donation to the corporate organization in Kansas that was started by these two guys who took the idea and then was saying, no, there's no donations. No, there's no donations, and just pocketing the money.
Oh, I got you.
So now I have proof. I'm looking at a check, and
there was a donation. The guy's guilty. Okay, now I get it. Okay.
Bob. Not unfortunately, Bob is a very proud Vietnam vet, and I'm like, Bob, hey, here's what's going on. And so we went out and documented everything. Went and formed a 501c3, and developed a law called the Funeral Protest Ban Law, which is in Minnesota. I think it might be in all 50 states by now. and figured out a way to, get connected with the local, National Guard and other bases around town. Because the fact of the matter is that, yes, it's family members that care about their loved ones over in the sandbox.
Yeah.
And so they're going to hear about something, and yeah, they're going to reach out, or they're going to be part of this group and reach back. And so what happened is developed the law to stop the 300-foot protest. And with Senator Betzold here in Minnesota, documented what we did, how we did it, every step of it, why we did it, gave proof of the check, sent it out to all 50 states, or whatever the number was at that time, captains, and proceeded to receive a lot of hate mail, and you're a traitor, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly 3 different states decided to start prosecuting. And suddenly, about a month after that email, all 50 states changed over to the model that Minnesota was using. And the reason why is because people here in Minnesota, there's 9,000 members in Minnesota Patriot Guard. Patriot Guard Riders is the national organization. The fact of the matter is that our soldiers, for love of their country, for family history, for a variety of reasons, sign up for 4 years minimum, and they do meet another ugly 3-letter word, IED, and it doesn't work out well. And sometimes they pay the ultimate price, and the last thing they need is some idiot standing out there with a big neon sign yelling stuff at a mother. So as an invited guest, which circumvents the law that we put in place, allows us to park 30 motorcycles right in front of them and their neon signs and their bullhorns. They want to get loud, we just turn on the Harleys. They want to break out the bullhorns, we just hold the throttle at a particular rev. And the family can bury their loved one in peace, no disturbance, no problems. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's been, goodness, it's been many years, about 9 years, 8 years since I've done anything with the organization. The goal was to build it, get it up, make it so that it can't ever go down, and go about making a living. And what took place was people would go on a mission, and not that I want to make you'd go to a funeral and you'd hold a flag and you'd ride your bike, and there was times where we rolled in with 400 plus motorcycles, almost 600 bikers, and everybody would have a flag. And like every other biker, we'd always wear those black t-shirts because, that's going to be nice and cool on a hot August day. We would, the town would only have 600 people. And this is a true story because actually that was the last time Fred Phelps was in the state of Minnesota. And we partnered up with law enforcement, and they ended up jumping in their van and got a wonderful little escort to the border of Iowa, and Iowa picked them up and give them another escort. And the fact of the matter is that same individual, most people don't realize this, Fred Phelps, passed away about 15, 16 months ago. Westboro Baptist Church put out a press release a day later. Fred Phelps will not be having a funeral.
No.
They can go around and terrorize the world or the country.
Yeah.
You're such a lame piece of work. Yes, Libby, I still think your dad's a lame piece of work. That you're not even going to have a funeral. So that's
you, Jim, to summarize what you just said, is you're a little bit on the vigilante side because you're very passionate about what you're doing. You're concerned about the people that are suffering, and you want to bring them together, and you're going to stand up and be counted. Absolutely. And this is that Irish-Italian combo. You're going to stand up and fight for the principles that are right in terms of the underlying person who's given so much and has problems, and people aren't paying attention to them and dealing with them correctly. Correct. And sometimes they're weak because they've had these problems. Absolutely. And you say, look, we could be much stronger together if we do this than if we exist independently. And that doesn't matter whether you're a person who's had brain injury Doesn't matter whether you're a professional. If you get stronger, the group is going to survive. And that's one of the things that really puts the whole meat on the bones of what you're doing.
Absolutely. And to be 110% honest with you, I can't say 10 years from now that I'm going to be in this organization playing an active role. I can promise you this much. The organization will be set up to be the correct way.
Yeah.
And I appeal to anybody that has nonprofit experience, that knows what they're doing, that is involved in a caregiver or survivor capacity, high functioning survivor side. Our goal is to, at some point, yes, it'd be nice if we were able to bring in enough money to actually hire some people. And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it's going to get.
Well, no, it's right in principle. It's just the issue is you don't know if it's going to work or not. You just got to bring the people in. So all I want to do is take a moment to say a big thank you to you, Jim. We do have to wind up. I mean, I think the real issue here is not one issue, but many issues. Many issues is, number one, how we communicate effectively and how we don't communicate effectively and how we can improve human connections and human communication. That is what this whole conversation between you and me is about.
Yes, absolutely.
And what I'm doing is I'm hearing the excellent efforts that you and your team, you got a big team there, you got an international team that's making a difference in any way you can. And the more you collectively work together, the more the possibility is that person out in Possum Hollow, Alabama, if that place exists, will get some kind of correct help and move on down the road.
Correct. And it's not the word possibility. This is happening.
Yeah.
This is not we hope this to happen.
Yeah.
This is actually happening, and I'm scared to meet that town in Alabama if it does exist, but I encourage anybody in that town and around the rest of the world to join in. Take action. I mean, this is our world. It is what we make of it. And whether you're a survivor, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're any of it, join. Make a difference in your world. Be happier. I mean, you'd be amazed what you get out of it. You really would.
Well, I like the doing thing, and I humbly stand corrected on possibility because you're making a difference. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us, Jim. We'll get you up on the vets page, and anything we can do to help you out down the road. If you have something else you want to talk about, you let us know because we'll jump on and make it happen for you.
I greatly appreciate the time. I appreciate all your support and help. And I think what you're doing over there on that end is an awesome thing. And by all means, anytime I can reach out, feel free. If you have any survivors along that vet side that would like, I believe you have my personal information. Share it with them.
I'll do that.
I'm happy to keep it offline and keep it confidential for them.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Thanks for listening to Core Brain Journal. We're working every day behind the scenes to bring you reports that connect research benches with those street trenches. Here we share the complexity of mind science because, as you know, details really do matter. One of the most pervasive, misunderstood challenges is how commonplace medications, like those written for ADHD, are used so regularly without clear guidelines. If you think you'd like more specifics, take a minute to download my 2-page PDF packed with video links and references on the absolute essentials of how to start ADHD medications. They're easily available at corebrainjournal.com/start. Thanks for listening. Do connect and stay tuned. Together we can make a difference.